Gender identification. This has become a big conversation and not always one that's that pleasant, particularly on the social political level. The most important thing is how it affects the people that are needing to shift their way of identifying themselves to feel comfortable with who they are. And the fact that they get a lot of backlash for different external reasons from different external forces can be very debilitating and very frustrating. What we might want to understand is, why? Why is that happening? That they have this feeling to identify differently. And I think I've said quite a bit about that already, because their hormone system is producing a different balance. And that if we take a look in nature, we see that in different species, this is also going on. Sometimes you have a very fine line between male and female. We have in nature many species that can change from female to male if it's needed, or male to female if it's necessary in the group. If there's a lack of a male, females can change and fulfill that that role. If we go back into history, we see different societies where the expression of different degrees of identity were more accepted. Of course, we see other societies where it was not accepted at all and very rigidly punished. So it's always been part of nature, but then something, according to the conditioning and the state of the human belief system, that either can accept it or wants to repress it. And then we see a cycle of acceptance and repression, and that's still going on today. So historically, we have it within humanity, but we have it for sure, multiple gender expressions within nature. And within our DNA, we have all that information of all the species. So it's not an unusual thing that somebody may not be able to fit themselves into a particular very rigid idea of what they are, who they are. They may need more latitude, more subtleties, and how to express themselves physically, how to express themselves socially, how to dress, how they want to wear their hair, even how they want to speak. It's up to them. So it's a big conversation, and I think that we could say that it's part of nature. There are many megatrends going on right now, economic megatrends, possibly political, certainly environmental. But this one that is, I think, the largest of all is the spiritual birth. Within the gender community, when someone gets to the point where they're really now willing and able, or make that decision that they're going to express themselves more true to how they feel, they go about different ways of maybe adjusting. So you have adjustment through hormones. Some are taking hormone therapy to develop or suppress certain characteristics of male or female. You have social, how people decide to move their bodies or style. Even legal, changing names. This is a lot going on there. And then we have actual surgical. The reason that people are doing any of this, though, is because they want to feel comfortable. They want to be happy. They want to feel empowered in their life. That's it. And they're feeling one way, they're afraid to express it, and it's very frustrating. It's a suffering. It's very painful. And so, at the same time, whatever feeling that is that's rushing through their bodies, it wants to express. That's an arousal too. But then, where the suffering is that they have to suppress it because external forces won't allow it. External forces are making it wrong, shameful, negative, a whole spectrum of negative responses to that. Not only affects more people than we realize, but for the ones that are brave enough to say something about it and to try to break down the barriers of repression, how many, and I'm just speculating that the amount of people that have this going on is far greater than that group that's actually telling you. And some people are too afraid to disrupt their lives by being honest. And there are other people that are so deep in denial, and it seems like when they go deep enough in denial, they're the ones that really try to persecute the ones that are brave enough to express. If somebody is at least able to, most people in the Western cultures are, changing, taking hormone, transitioning from the appearance of one sexuality that they were born with to another, or different variations that they might want to express. Some are vacillating back and forth. This is called transitioning. But what I like to say is that we're all transitioning. And so this megatrend of the spiritual birth is just one, this is just like one element of how it's coming out. Because as the vibrational body forms, then these lockdown qualities become freed up. And so it can be a lot of times in these communities, there are some high levels of awareness because of the struggle that take place, high levels of social and spiritual understanding. That's all part of that, but that's also coming because these energy systems are accelerating. The hormonal system, obviously, which is a network of vibrational packets flowing around the body, then they're accelerating. And so they're becoming more mutable, more transmutable. And so naturally, a person may have one expression, another expression, feel a certain way, and it doesn't really anymore work to lock it down into 2 categories or 3 categories or however many. There's at least 10 accepted gender identities at this point, at least 10. And I know that there's many subcategories to that. So it's very natural that certain people would want to express themselves in ways that are different than the conditioned norms of our Western, well, all societies at this point. But what I'd like to say is that this is just one situation that's coming out. But in fact, we are also all transitioning at this point from the physical life with this more locked down structural reality, this linear timeline that we have to operate on, and we're moving into something that's more flexible. Now we're in an intermediate state, and this is part of that intermediate state for the people experiencing that. But as we've talked about many different ways within family, within friends, within work situations, we're also experiencing that when our systems start to become more activated, it may not be a need to have a different gender expression, but certainly a different value expression can be there, like what our goals are, what our values are. So we're actually at an intermediate state right now, where our systems are freeing up, becoming more flexible, more mutable. So like, again, our values are changing, our goals are changing. What is something that makes us happy is changing. And we are moving to a totally flexible reality where we not only transcend time, but we are released from the lockdown of gravity.